affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates.
This is Strat News Global. I'm Amitabh Revi. We're bringing to you a quick roundup of developments. Operation Sindoor, Day 3. We have with us founder and editor-in-chief of Strat News Global and Bharat Shakti, Nitin Gokhale. Before we get into discussing it, and it's pretty bang on what we did in the morning as well, but let's just play out the soundbite of Wing Commander Vyomika Singh when she was briefing the media today.
Night of 8th-9th May 2025, Pakistan military carry out multiple violations of Indian airspace along the entire western border with an intent to target military infrastructure. Pakistan military also resorted to firing of heavy caliber weapons along the line of control. Along the international border and line of control, drone intrusions were attempted from Leh to Sir Creek at 36 locations with approximately 300 to 400 drones. Indian Armed Forces brought down a number of these drones using kinetic and non-kinetic means. The possible purpose of these large-scale aerial intrusions were to test the AD systems and gather intelligence. Forensic examination of the drone debris is being undertaken. Preliminary reports suggest them to be of Aziz Guard Songa drone of Turkey. Later in the night, an armed UAV of Pakistan attempted to target Bhatinda military station, which was detected and neutralized. In response to the Pakistani attack, armed drones were launched at 4 air defense sites in Pakistan. One of the drones was able to destroy an AD radar. Pakistan also carried out artillery shelling across the line of control using heavy caliber artillery guns and armed drones at Tangdhar, Uri, Poonch, Mendhar, Rajouri, Akhnur, and Udhampur in Jammu and Kashmir area, which resulted in some losses and injuries to Indian Army personnel. Pakistan Army also suffered major losses in Indian retaliatory fire. Additionally, Pakistan's irresponsible behavior again came to fore. Pakistan did not close its civil airspace despite it launching a failed unprovoked drone and missile attack on 7th May at 8:30 hours in the evening. Pakistan is using civil airliners as a shield, knowing fully well that its attack on India would elicit a swift air defense response. This is not safe for the unsuspecting civil airliners, including the international flights, which were flying near IB between India and Pakistan. The screenshot we just showed and we shall share with you, it shows the data of the application Flight Radar 24 during a high air defense alert situation in the Punjab sector. As you have seen, the airspace on the Indian side is absolutely devoid of civil air traffic due to our declared closure. However, there are civil airlines flying the air route between Karachi and Lahore. Amongst the other civil aircraft that you can see, we have highlighted an aircraft which is Airbus 320 of Flynas Aviation, which was originated from Dammam at 1750 hours and landed later at Lahore at 2110 hours in the night. Indian Air Force.
And you can send in your questions and comments. We have Nitin Gokhale, as we mentioned, with us again this evening. Nitin, so outlining specifics of what we were talking about earlier in the morning. But 300 to 400 drones, most of them cheap Chinese drones, some Turkish assist guard drones, debris being forensically examined, and one armed Pakistani drone, which attempted an attack on Bhatinda.
Right. In fact, I think it just adds to what we've been talking since the morning, or spoke in the morning, that Pakistan wanted to engage military targets as well as civilian spaces in India across not just the western border, but also if you really look at how they went right up to Leh, which is in Ladakh, which has nothing to do with Pakistan in that sense. So this attempt was obviously to test, like Commander Viveka Singh said, India's air defenses, and I think it's really laudatory that India's air defense rose to the occasion, because most of them have been brought down, and there's hardly any damage to Indian installations or Indian assets anywhere, which I think is a good account that the air defense system of India has given. And I think this is a pleasant surprise, I must say, because there has been a major worry in the Indian military about the state of India's air defense uh, capabilities and equipment. But I think they have risen to the occasion, so I think we must congratulate them.
Just starting to get some questions, so I'm putting them up on the screen and I'll read them out for you, Nitin. Tejas Joshi asking, wasn't all of this like violation of airspace, an attack on civilian infrastructure? Wasn't it an act of war? And if yes, why are we shying away from accepting this?
We are not shying away from accepting this. I think Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri did say that this is the escalation that Pakistan has done, and we have appropriately responded. I think four places in Pakistan were attacked by India, and I think she finally said that one of the radars was destroyed there. So India is giving the appropriate response in the appropriate domain, because they have used only drones and armed drones. India has also used drones and armed drones. Artillery fire, which is a ceasefire violation, which India is anyway responding on the line of control. So I think the response is appropriate, and I think this is India's stand. It has been that if Pakistan does something, we will do exactly in the same manner, mirror it, in fact. But if Pakistan then now chooses to de-escalate from here on, and which is what I think this was also one of the intentions behind Pakistan's strategy of launching such large-scale drone intrusion, attempting to launch such a large-scale drone intrusion, because now they can tell their own domestic audience and population that look, we have done this, and this is something that can sort of punish India, or we have shown India that we have the capability, and then they can de-escalate from there.
And again, when we're looking at these swarm drones, if you can call them that, it's very highly unlikely that, as we were talking in the morning, that the S-400 Triumph or Sudarshan Chakra would have been used, or the Akash.
Yes, because they are meant for the planes and missiles, really. And I think what came to the fore is L-70 guns, which are the mainstay of the air defense system or air defense mechanism that we have, and the ZU-23, which has also been in service for a long time, and several counter UAV systems, which have been procured from local manufacturers, IP also with local manufacturers. I think they have done well, and it's a battle testing ground for these platforms, anti-aircraft, anti counter UAV, counter drones that we have, which I think again gives India the probably the advantage and the confidence that going forward you can keep procuring these in large numbers. So I think Pakistan is doing a service to Indian armed forces by sending these drones, which are then being countered by what we have in our arsenal.
Another question that is coming in from Kala Venkat. Just a second while I take it on air. How long will it be proportionate and appropriate? They don't seem to be stopping.
Well, I think they are petering out basically after what they tried on 7th of they tried it on 7th of May, first night, when they attempted to target Golden Temple in Amritsar, a religious place which was deliberately chosen. Again, that was thwarted. That was highly escalatory, but from there on, I think now they are choosing the targets or places to target randomly. There is no definite end objective that Pakistan is showing. There is no intent, really. It's not a military operation per se. This is sending out drones to probe India's air defense, which is not a military operation in my view. It's just a preliminary probe to find out what the adversary is doing. So I think they are going to go off ramp from here. But again, knowing Pakistan's irrationality, we never know. But a lot of pressure must be coming on Pakistan to stop doing what they're doing right now from other international players.
And the wing commander also held up a photograph there of flight patterns in India, which is completely devoid of civilian traffic, whereas she's pointing out even particular Airbus aircraft which are still flying in Pakistan territory and
From
kind
Dammam to, I think,
correct
to
this
Lahore.
kind of well you yeah here it is, somewhat related. Rahul Rathod, why is India not declaring Pakistan airspace as a no-fly zone?
Well, India can't declare that. Unfortunately, India has declared its own airspace as no flying zone in several places. Several airports on the western border have been shut, as we know. But Pakistan deliberately is doing this. You're right. They want India to sort of hit a civilian aircraft somewhere, and then they can cry and sort of complain that India has violated human rights or something of that kind, and targeted non-military aircraft. That's what they would like to do. But India, I think, has been careful, and I think monitoring it very well from what one has seen. I think this is the typical Pakistani tactic. They don't accept their casualties, fatal casualties, like they didn't in Kargil 1999. They lie through their teeth right from the inception, from 1947, not just to their own people, but to their community. I'm hearing some conversations on spaces. For instance, somebody shared long space conversation of ordinary Pakistanis, and it's hilarious as well as pathetic at the same time. They have resigned to their fate. They said this Pakistani army does everything else but fight. They run businesses, they run airlines, they control. They want to sort of get posts in civilian government system. All that they were doing, but they will do everything but fight, and therefore we are doomed. And India should,
Apart from the main
apart from
occupation, which is proxy terror.
proxy terror, which of course that's what. So they were coming to that. In the last point that they were making is that apart from creating jihadis, I don't think they can fight with anybody else. And India should really end this and maybe take this fellow they're talking about, General Asim Munir,
Yeah.
take him to India and imprison him. Was one of the remarks in that space, which shows the state of affairs in Pakistan, the low esteem in which Pakistani army is being held these days, which has never happened. And therefore, I think the Pakistani army would also realize by itself that it is not in a very happy state.
So I'll just play out another soundbite, this time of Foreign Secretary Vikram Mishri, where he was talking again about reiterating how Pakistan's attempts at attacking India's installations were provocative and escalatory, whereas India was responding adequately and responsibly. This is Vikram Mishri at today's briefing.
Provocative and escalatory actions that were taken by Pakistan last night were targeted at Indian cities and civilian infrastructure, in addition to some military targets. The Indian armed forces responded proportionately, adequately, and responsibly. ये जो हमले हुए कल रात को भारतीय सैन्य इकाइयों ने पर्याप्त रूप से और एक जिम्मेदाराना रुख अपनाते हुए इन हरकतों का उत्तर दिया. What I want to underline is that the official and blatantly farcical denial of these attacks that Pakistan carried out by the Pakistani state machinery is yet another example of their duplicity and the new depths that they are plumbing in their quest for disinformation. The other point in the same vein is Pakistani claims that they did not target or attack any religious places. You would recall that yesterday I shared with you an incident related to the attack on a Gurdwara in Poonch. Instead of owning up to these attacks, Pakistan made the preposterous and outrageous claim that it was the Indian Armed Forces and the Indian Air Force that was targeting cities like Amritsar and trying to put the blame on Pakistan. This is nothing but a desperate attempt by Pakistan to disown its acts of aggression, but it is also true to type in its effort to deceive and mislead the world. It will not succeed. The Gurdwara in Poonch in particular was attacked by Pakistan, and some local members of the Sikh community, including a Ragi of the Gurdwara, lost their lives in this incident, as I shared yesterday. TV पर आप इस हमले के चित्र देख सकते हैं. In addition, that we would attack our own cities is the kind of deranged fantasy that only the Pakistani state can come up with. Perhaps they do it because they are well versed in such action, as their history would show. The last point I wanted to make this evening is again this disinformation that is coming from Pakistan about India targeting the Nankana Sahib Gurdwara through a drone attack. This is again yet another blatant lie and part of Pakistan's disinformation campaign. As we saw in the Pahalgam attack, Pakistan is again trying desperately to impart a communal hue to the situation with an intention to create discord. Again, we are not surprised. India's steadfast unity in itself is a challenge to Pakistan.
Pakistan deranged, India's steadfast unity. Vikram Mishri, the foreign secretary there. Nitin, continuing with some questions that our viewers are sending in. Since we talked about it's possibly a probe or a test of India's air defense systems, Gokul Verma in case says now that Pakistan has got a measure of our air defenses, I'll put the question as what would be the next escalation be? He's talking about coordinated air attack by PF and PLAF though.
Well, certainly not PF and PLAF because PLAF or China actually is a very rational player, very practical nation state, which knows when to get into a fight. This is not an appropriate time for China to get into any fight, really, given that the problems that they're facing because of the trade war and because of the pure sort of flimsy ground on which Pakistan is actually trying to attack India. There is no reason for PLAF to come into this. But next step of an escalation, I don't think there is going to be an escalation. Tonight, probably there will be heavy artillery firing on the LOC all along the line of control. Probably India will respond, not probably, but India will definitely respond to that provocation. But beyond that, I don't think Pakistan has the stomach or the financial heft to do anything more, which India in any case is okay with, because India has made its point. It has targeted the terrorist infrastructure deep inside Pakistan, and now sort of put a sword to their, a gun to their head, that wherever you are, whenever we want, we can actually come and hit you. I think that's the end of the story as far as India is concerned, if Pakistan doesn't escalate, but I don't think Pakistan will escalate.
Some more questions which we had got in the morning as well. Just find it there. Of course, though, against these kind of cheap Chinese drones or even armed drone that was being talked about, the S-400 Triumph Sudarshan Chakra would not have been used, or the Akash, we don't know if and when they were used before last night's attack, thwarting of attack. Chaitanya Deshpande, is India really using S-400s? I thought it would be used, saved up for defending Delhi, Mumbai from cruise ballistic missiles. And there is another one, I think, on Chaitanya Deshpande, was BrahMos used in the first attack? There were pictures of nose caps of air-launched BrahMos in Rajasthan desert.
Well, I have no idea which missiles were used, but certainly precision strikes, pinpointed, intelligence-based, were done in the first strike. And yes, he's right about S-400 and Akash system. They are meant for bigger, high-value targets to be defended, and also S-400's range is actually goes west of Pakistan. in that sense, in certain in depth of Pakistan as a country, as a geography. And I don't think that came into play because they're not effective against drones or smaller UAVs. I mean, armed UAVs. So I mean, it's good to have them. They can detect, they can track, and they can destroy whenever required. But I think the very fact that India's indigenously developed and a mix of indigenously developed counter UAV UAS systems have worked, and also some foreign imported ones have actually come into play, shows that India's AD, and I am repeating myself here, has risen to the occasion, and really kudos to them.
Again, looking at something that we had talked about in the morning, people still having those questions about Rafale being down, JF-17s being down, pilots, a lot of misinformation. In fact, we do have, I think, a lot of tweets that we can play out from the PIB fact check of some of them. But if you want to take this question about from Ankit Mattu, how is mainstream media contributing to the spread of misinformation or fake news regarding the conflict, and what impact might this have on public perception and diplomacy?
That is a very intelligent question, because last night was real mayhem in the studios in India. I know people are telling me that on Twitter, advising me and mocking me that you don't understand IW, information warfare, and this was done as information warfare because Pakistan was going berserk. Pakistan was saying that Indian media is creating hysteria while they were attacking with drones. All this is a very convoluted explanation. The simple fact is there was no information available to the media, and yet they were going on and on about having attacked Indian forces having attacked Karachi. Somebody said Islamabad has been captured. Third person said, or third TV channel said, Asim Munir has been arrested by India, deposed, or he's arrested and he's deposed. These are not just exaggerated, but these are statements and narratives that they were trying to build, which are harmful to the people. Because now, by doing this, you are raising the expectations of the common citizen, and war hysteria got created when there was no war. Somebody asked me today on another English channel that is this war? So I said, this is hardly war. This is not even 1/10 of what one saw in Kargil, or even otherwise in ceasefire violations that happened on the line of control. So I think they must introspect. They must figure out. Some channels have sort of gone ahead and given half an apology, or a half-hearted apology, I would say. I was told, and I saw some of the clips there. But they must introspect, because when the real war comes, then people will not be prepared. They will think that this is the real thing, what happened yesterday. And like I said in the morning, war is not a video game. I think this is a serious business, and the serious business must be met with serious responses and serious responsibility from all concerned, not just the armed forces, not just the government, but the citizens, as well as us in the media. And that is an imperative that everybody must understand.
When you're talking about citizens, and there have been drills that have been conducted, and now they're no longer drills, but a question being asked here by Ordinary Art: why is a blackout important? Nowadays, technology is so advanced, wouldn't our enemy know the locations in the dark as well? Or is it because of S-400s to attack missiles properly? That's the technical question, but if you want to take the blackout and following
blackout,
the drills
blackout is not to give them additional advantage. You might know the location through GPS, but sometimes if the pilots are coming, if they are manned aircraft, there is a lot of disorientation, or there is something that the pilots want to go specifically, and if you don't give them the clarity through well lighted places, then there is always some disorientation, I'm sure, that will happen. Although, like, the technology that they mentioned is of course very advanced, but also people should not just look at blackouts. They should also look at what precaution to take if there is a bomb, if there is an air raid, if there is a bomb attack, or bombs are raining on them from various directions. What precautions they must take? Because children must know, even the young people must know, those who have never seen. In fact, I would think if you look back really on one of the major attacks that happened on a major Indian city was in 2008 in Mumbai, and after that, a terrorist attack of that scale hasn't taken place. Maybe in 2012, 2013, there were a couple of other attacks like that. And people don't know how to react to those kind of situations. So therefore, these drills are important to follow instructions, to go into shelters if there are already designated shelters. I think today I saw one young district collector speaking to someone, speaking to people in Rajasthan somewhere, one of the districts, saying why it is important to follow instructions which have been issued by the government. Don't take it lightly. Don't try and take selfies when drones are flying around, or armed drones are trying to hit targets, which we saw yesterday on Thursday. Some students in one of the Punjab educational institutes making fun of the entire, the drones flying up and down or intercepts happening, which I think is rather casual. And like I've said in the morning, I think nations fight war, not just armed forces, and everybody must be prepared to contribute positively to that effort. I hope people sort of get that right, and even the media gets it right, because if media behaves like this, they will lose credibility, people will lose faith in them, and when the real need comes, and when they start reporting on real war, people may not believe them. That's the danger that media must be aware of, really.
And in relation to what you were just saying and your answer to the earlier question about mainstream media, a question from Avijit Ghosh. What is going on currently in the war front, as we cannot believe mainstream media? Where can we get the latest news?
There you are. Already people are now beginning to doubt mainstream media. They think they have their own agenda. They want to create TRPs. They want to earn more TRPs. So what do you do? So therefore, I think to restore credibility of the mainstream media, they must behave rationally. Also, get sort of the information right, and not play to the gallery, if I may say that, because by playing to the gallery, you're actually doing disservice. And now Pakistanis, I just saw a tweet by a prominent Pakistani blogger based in US, who's mocking that what happened yesterday uh, is Pakistani general headquarters captured by such and such TV channel, Karachi attacked by another TV channel. Tanks have rolled in, said another TV channel. Pakistanis must sleep in peace because that's all India can do. Already that mocking has started. We have given them that chance. So I think that's something people should be aware of.
Again, another question from Rahul Rathod. Will this conflict become an Israel-Gaza Hamas-like conflict in the future? Pakistan continues to or starts firing cheap rockets in India on a regular basis, and India keeps shooting them down like Israel.
It can happen, but Pakistan, remember, doesn't have inexhaustible financial resources, and they have to stop somewhere. They cannot be spending money on cheap thrills or just for effect. And their own people will put pressure on the Pakistani army not to do this, because that's where I think the people are getting frustrated and really sort of putting pressure on the Pakistani military. One of the reasons for Pahalgam, which we have mentioned in the earlier programs, was also Asim Munir's attempt to shore up the Pakistani army's image amongst the people of Pakistan. But by doing what they have done now, and the way they are responding, or the way India has hit those targets, and Pakistan's air defense has proved to be ineffective, I think people are going to get further disillusioned with the Pakistani army, which has been a process for some time, but it's going to just get speeded up.
If you talk about the war chest on both sides, Apurva Bajpai, I think, if it comes to an all-out war, how long do you think Pakistan can last before depleting their resources? And I guess there's a flip to that as well.
Yes, there is a flip. I mean, obviously, India is a economy which is 10 times stronger than Pakistan's. Pakistan is living on borrowed money, and will be again going begging for money from the IMF in some few weeks. So their appetite to sustain a war would be limited, certainly very limited compared to India's. But again, who comes to their help is the question. And in any case, like I said, the war cannot be sustained if there is no political objective to it. And what is it that Pakistan army wants to achieve by launching a war, a full-scale war that they want to escalate to? India is prepared. I can't put a figure or days to how long they will last. But my guess is, I mean, if I have to give my best guess, not more than 7 or 8 days of ammunition supplies and other supplies. And therefore, Pakistan must be very careful in not letting this escalate or deteriorate into a full-fledged war.
Chaitanya Deshpande says misinformation is not a weapon of gentlemen. Just going back to a point of misinformation, disinformation, so much, you're mentioning so many different examples that all of us have seen just even overnight. It is one strand of thought that it is possibly an Indian government strategy to let people come out with so much.
Yeah.
Not only went, but then the
Overwhelm
Pakistani,
the Pakistanis with that.
Is that something really?
Well, I won't give that that kind of what should I say, credit to whoever has thought this, because I don't think it's a strategy. It's just pure competition between channels to be one up on one another, and so do what they're trying to do. If it was a well thought out strategy, you wouldn't do this across the entire spectrum of electronic media. You would have some of them speaking reasonably, logically, in a balanced way. But everybody doing this is not. I mean, this is not saturation bombing. If they want to say that this is under IW, this is saturation bombing. I don't believe this is true. But if somebody believes it, and if it is true, then I would give 100% marks to whoever thought of this idea.
And we can play out the Foreign Secretary also being asked a question related to reports about linkages to Daniel Pearl's murder and state funerals being played out in Pakistan, to the extent Maulvi, who's linked to a terror group proscribed in both US sanctions and possibly even in the UN sanctions, leading prayers. This is what the Foreign Secretary had to say.
Is the headquarters of the Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorist group that is proscribed by the United Nations. Its leader, Maulana Masood Azhar, is a proscribed individual. It is, you brought up the connection with the tragic death or killing of Daniel Pearl, of the Wall Street Journal. The Jaish-e-Mohammed was in some way directly or indirectly responsible for the death of Daniel Pearl. But the real connection is through Ahmed Omar Saeed Sheikh, the British Pakistani jihadi, who was held in India, but was finally released in 2000, and he was the person who lured Daniel Pearl to his eventually leading to his murder. So these are all obviously connected figures, connected individuals, connected institutions, and the attack on Bahawalpur, on that facility of the Jaish-e-Mohammed in Bahawalpur, is, I would imagine, a fitting part of this unfortunate incident.
Out of the three directly linked to Daniel Pearl's horrendous murder, one apparently has been killed, is dead, one is in Pakistan custody, and the third, of course, in Guantanamo, being tried by the Khalid Mohammed Sheikh by the US. Related to that, but looking very forward, Vishal Kataria, should Bharat's attempts to remove terror remain ongoing even after de-escalation? He's talking about post that, but
of course,
you get the
no,
gist.
it is. I get the gist that that is an ongoing effort, because India will always be a target for its success and for how India has now gone far ahead of Pakistan in every possible way, every segment, every indices, and therefore Pakistan has no other option but to continue with its policy of proxy war and proxy terror, and using terror as a state policy. So therefore, I think India will have to be on guard, constantly battling and constantly countering these attempts. But eventually, terrorism also has a cycle. It goes up reaches the peak and then starts declining. And there is very little appetite for support to terrorism anymore across the world. Although these incidents will continue, the attempts to kill Indians will continue, but that we have to live with. But it will not be as bad as what Israel has to go through or had to go through all these years.
Random Reviews has a question for you, Nitin. Is India missing on a lifetime golden opportunity to reclaim Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir by not escalating on the ladder?
Well, I have had this view that it's better, we will be better off not claiming or controlling or annexing Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir. First, let's get our act right and our control fully in Jammu and Kashmir. Although that is also a part, and we keep saying that it's an Indian, India has full rights and it's an integral part of India. So we don't need to, because the people themselves there will start. We don't have to do a military activity. They will revolt against the Pakistanis, against the Pakistani army, and gradually they themselves will see the advantage of being with India. I don't think a military operation at this stage of our nationhood is required, which will set us back, and this will be then the Pakistani army will be like a desperate, cornered animal, which we don't want at this moment to fight unnecessarily, because it will expend our energies, our finances, and it will bring down and slow down our growth. So I don't think that is the requirement at the moment, but people might have different ideas.
You've answered this question many times over these days, but it keeps coming up because I guess they miss the part when we discuss NCM. Still no discussion of lost Indian planes. What kind of media is this?
Well, we have asked these questions at the press conferences and all that. The kind of media that they're talking about is, how do you confirm if the government is not willing to confirm? Let's assume that some some planes have crashed. Uh, then, if the government doesn't confirm, if the Air Force doesn't confirm, what else can you do? We are speaking about it. We are asking the questions, but I have another take on this, which people must understand. India has had several crashes over the years of during peacetime of Indian Air Force fighter jets and helicopters, and there's not been a single occasion that I have seen over these 20, 25 years or 30 years that I have been looking at these crashes, that there has been no photograph or a video once the smartphones came into play, where a local villager or a local town or a city, wherever these airplanes have crashed, has not come out before the media reaches there, or even before the Air Force knows where exactly these planes have crashed. And if that is, suppose, let's assume that Indian Air Force planes have been lost in Indian territory, which everybody admits, even Pakistan admits that, okay, they didn't come to our territory. If they have been, if they have crashed in Indian territory, where is the photograph? Can you ring fence every village and every town and every person in that particular village or particular town, where they'll not take a photograph or a video of those crashes where planes are burning or pilots are ejected? I haven't seen anything of that kind. And don't tell me that Indian state is so efficient, or the Indian Air Force is so efficient, that they will completely black out these photographs or random videos that people take when these crashes happen. So I'm intrigued. I'm indeed intrigued. I want answers, but like the Foreign Secretary said, it will be given an appropriate time. I'm willing to wait for that. During war, if all of you are saying that this is war, then you must be willing to wait for the answers to come from the government.
From the air to the sea, there's a question here which again has been coming all through the hours and days. If Pakistan escalates, is a naval blockade a possibility? And we can pull out that map that well-known OSINT analyst Damon Simon has put up of naval firing exercises and the dates that have been blocked by both Pakistan and India. And I think the closest that they come to each other is about 12 nautical miles.
Well, the naval option is always there for India. Again, Indian Navy is stronger than Pakistan's Navy, and India can pull out many surprises on the Pakistan Navy. Although Pakistan claims and has the China-supplied submarines in its arsenal, We will see if it comes to push comes to shove, how Pakistan Navy then excuse me, counters Indian Navy's strength as far as the naval battle is concerned. I don't think we are going to get to that stage at this moment. And lest anybody thinks that I am a peacenik and I don't want the war there. War or operation has a context. It has to have a appropriate time. You must have that opportunity to prosecute war to an extent where you're guaranteed to win. I'm not saying India is not guaranteed to win, but is this an appropriate time? Let's ask ourselves. The government has to weigh in so many factors before they take any decision. Like somebody said about POK. Certainly, forget me or forget the people. The ruling BJP's famous agenda, or one of the first points, is to take back POJK from Pakistan control. So they would be the first ones to attempt that if they wanted to, and if they knew that it can be done. So let's leave it to the decision makers what they want to do or how they want to go about it. And I think India is capable of multiple challenges being met at multiple levels.
Another question from Apurva Bajpai, who says, do you think China will, in a full-fledged way, support Pakistan, even if it means risking going to war?
I don't think China is that foolish. You look at history and you look at the current context. China has never come to Pakistan's aid physically or otherwise. They've issued statements, they've done other stuff, but they haven't really, intervened between India and Pakistan when it comes to a kinetic war or the number of wars India and Pakistan have fought. Chinese have attempted to put pressure on India. I'm not saying they haven't attempted that, but they haven't really gone the whole hog to take sides with Pakistan. Whether future scenario they will be compelled to, who knows? I mean, things change, context change, the policies of different governments change. But going by evidence that is available, I don't think that's possible.
And Gunakant asks, is India doing enough when Pakistan has loose talk on nuclear weapons? I think he's also referring to the nuclear bluff.
Well, India has called Pakistan's nuclear bluff, I think, in 2019, and especially in 2019 when Balakot airstrike did happen. And that time, all that talk ceased, really, because that is the last resort that can be used. And it's much below that threshold. India is doing these counter strikes or the strikes on Pakistan like it has done. I think at the moment, let's not even contemplate or think of a nuclear thing. And nobody's thinking of that. I can assure our viewer that that dimension hasn't come into play at the moment.
Thanks, Nitin. So again, taking all those questions. And just a reminder to our viewers, stay tuned to Stat News Global and Bharat Shakti. We'll get you all the latest credible, sane, sober analysis that can be verified. There is a compliment for Nitin there from Jignesh Lodari, who says Nikhil Gokhale. Nitin Gokhale is the best defense analyst. And I think one more I have here.
For you also, I'm sure.
Vinita Godbole is in reference to an earlier conversation with one of our viewers, Avijit, who you took a question on if mainstream media is reporting this way, where do we get our news from? So Vinita says, Avijit, I come to Strat News and I watch the MEA press briefings. Everything else is just for fun. So that's your takeaway from these discussions and analysis on Strat News Global and Bharat Shakti. Do keep coming back to us and follow our social media handles. Thanks for watching this show and stay tuned.